Okay, welcome to today's video. This is going to be Chapter 3 of Practical Malware Analysis, Lab 2. And this is a new lab for me because we'll be analyzing a DLL. So what that means is we're going to have to use run DLL32 to load and run this. The reason why is because a DLL is a dynamic link library. What that means is that the file can be used by multiple programs. And by design, they're loaded into a process's memory space. Rather than an exe, which are standalone executables, DLLs don't have a defined entry point for execution because it's a library and not a program. The DLL will contain exported functions that other processes or executables can call. So why we're using run DLL32, because it's a built-in Windows utility that allows you to execute functions exported by a DLL. It will load the DLL into memory and calls the specified function that we give it. What we're going to do here is in command line, we'll load the lab DLL with run DLL32 and use whatever function we find. Above here is just me testing out my network simulation because as you can see, I did an NS lookup for google.com at my IP and it gives me my iNetSim server, right? So then I wanted to ping my Remnux machine running iNetSim and make sure I was able to talk to it. I confirmed that we got replies. And then I wanted to actually ping Google and make sure that we weren't able to talk to the internet if we're going to be executing malware. And as you can see, destination host is unreachable. So iNetSim, I'm simulating network services, right? And we're going to be able to monitor the traffic, what this malware sample is doing. That will be later with the basic dynamic analysis. What we're going to do first is get the exported function that we can use to load this with run DLL32. To do that, there will be a couple different ways, but I'll probably go with pview here. And I want to change the file type to DLL, dynamic link library. There we go. And now we have this loaded up. Let's see. Let's just move down here. We have the imports, which is cool. We're going to be able to see what this might be doing. We can see that it's going to might create a registry key, might set a value, create a service. This is interesting right here for sure. What we're seeing is that this is going to connect to the internet, send a HTTP request, read an internet file, probably to download a file from the internet using HTTP. Next, we can see the exports, which is where we're going to want to look here. There's a lot going on in the hints / names, import hints names and DLL names. HTTP send request. We might be able to even see the URL possibly that this is going to try to contact. And here is what we want to load the DLL with a function. This is the function we're going to want, and it's going to be either this install or this install. And take note of capitalization. This one does have capitalization. This one does not, except for the N there. So we can see lab DLL, install service, main uninstalls and install and uninstall. Oh, look at that. So in the section data, you can see right here, Practical Malware Analysis.com, serve HTML, and then create a process. So I am pretty certain that that's what's going to end up happening once we look into this with the executing this and loading it with run DLL32. Let's see what service collect. So I am seeing INA plus collects and stores network configuration and location information with a path to service host. Create a service. Intranet network awareness INA plus. Net services, open key, query key value. iPrip, uninstall. Something about possibly AV type for antivirus type. First, before we do anything with loading the DLL, we'll want to open up 3 tools. 3 tools we want to open up are going to be Process Explorer, which we can leave running. This is a little different because this is going to use up our memory because it's actually going to capture and save all of the process information. So it can make your machine crash or really slow if you leave it on for too long. So what I would recommend doing is stopping the capture. That's what I'm going to do, is stop the capture for now. And I'm going to go into filters. I'm going to filter for process name, and the process name in this case will be our lab030.dll. Right. So apply, and it's not going to have anything even if I start capturing again. The reason why is because we're filtering for lab03-02.dll. So that's all we're going to see, and nothing's happening with it at this moment. Next, the one that I forget to open up, but is very important to open up, is Regshot. So, okay, hold up here. So I'm going to open this, extract files. What is up with that? Okay, I'll open the archive, and then I'll just open up Regshot. So now with that open, let's start our tools. Process Explorer is going. We have the command prompt up. I'll get this preloaded by changing the directory to the desktop. So now we're in the desktop. And what this tool is going to let us do is compare registry changes, modifications, additions, all of that between the first and second shot. And what we'll do is load this. And for now, we'll have these 3 windows up and do run DLL32.exe, right? And lab0302.dll, comma, install A. And hopefully when I hit enter, we're not going to get an error, and we should see run DLL32 as a child process of command.exe, and then it should terminate. After that, we're going to take another registry shot and compare the differences. And look at that. You saw that? It spawned. That was why it was highlighted green. It loaded our DLL, and then it terminated after it was done. That's exactly what we wanted to see. We didn't get any errors in the command window here. Going to take a second shot now. Right. And look what we have. Do you remember when we were in process view, we were able to look in the section data and see IPRIP and also the INA plus collects and stores network configuration data, that this was possibly going to create a service. But let's look at what this is doing. So again, we can see these keys were added. Based off our static analysis, we can conclude here that these weren't here before. The keys were added, and then these values were added, and these values were modified. The seeds we can ignore. That is not relevant to what we're seeing here. As far as I know, in my current level at least. So let's go to the interesting stuff that we know. And we know that IPRIP is part of this. So is part of our sample, what it's going to end up doing. So we can see it added these keys after loading. And I'm going to open up a notepad. I'm not used to XP notepad. I hope that works. Yeah, very nice. So we'll copy this because these are good host-based indicators, right? Host-based indicators, stuff we're going to see on the host. So we know these keys were going to get added, and then all of this, all these values added, and we can see that, again, service host, net services, right? We even have a string of the display name, which is Intranet Network Awareness, INI plus. That is going to be a good indicator of compromise of this sample, sure. But it's a way to look for this in your system, right? Because we can look for the string in the registry or look into any processes that a description says this, or like right here, it actually says description depends INA plus collects and stores network configuration and location information and notifies applications when this information changes. I'll take all of these out and copy. And then we can exit out of that because we have what we needed. Right. So where we're at now, let me look at the questions in the book so we can see where we're at and go from there. So question 1 is, how can you get this malware to install itself? Well, by loading it with run DLL32, which we already did. Second question, how would you get this malware to run after it's installed, right? We now have the details. So we have what we need to get this to start. Because of our registry shot that we took, and we compare it, and we have these values added and the keys added. So with the keys added, what we're going to want to look for is the service, right? Look here, we can see iPrep is the service. Under the service is key, iPrep parameters, iPrep security. To actually run this, we'll need to start iPrep service on the machine. And we can do that in command line. Use the net command, and that will be net start iPrep, just like it's spelled in the keys we saw. Next, let me look at the following question before we run this. Following question is, how can you find the process under which the malware is running? So what I'm going to say here is to make sure I want to clear this process monitor. I should have just hit clear and then start it again. This is basically like Task Manager, but just a lot more detailed. So let's go ahead and start this, right? Net start and the service name, iPrep, which we got from the registry keys. So they spawned under command. We saw a child process and then a grandchild process. They terminated really fast. But now what we can see is that we successfully started this. The Internet Network Awareness service is starting. The Internet Network Awareness service was started successfully. Perfect. And before you execute any malware, as you know, that's why I had in my Remnux machine okay, I wasn't capturing the Wireshark. That's fine, because I have simulated services set up. Here we go. So you're already seeing queries too. The string we pulled out earlier. We saw this. Practicalmalwareanalysis.com. We have a response. Practicalmalwareanalysis.com. 10.1.2. In a perfect scenario, I would have had this running already before I started the service. But hey, it's okay because I already had this iNetSim running. So thankfully I confirmed that. But we'll get into the network stuff in a minute here. What I want to do is follow the books and stay on track with that. So what we're going to look for now is I'm going to full screen the sysinternals tool for Process Explorer. This is fun. I'm not going to lie. This is cool. Being able to load the DLL and then seeing the registry key changes and getting an understanding of being able to piece that all together and using certain strings we were seeing, keys added, values changed or added, help us locate this in our analysis machine. These are good skills. Practice makes perfect. There is a way to show lower pain and look at DLLs. I'm not seeing our lab DLL in here. So what I would do is find a handler DLL and type in the DLL's name, lab0302.dll. Search. Yeah, we have it open in PE view. That is true when we're doing our static analysis, but what we're looking for is what it's doing outside of our analysis and just on the computer itself. We're running this service host instance, which it looks like it highlighted it already. And now it's giving us a and I'm looking to see if we see anything about, and I think I see iPrip in there. You might need to open this up, right? So let's exit out of this now. Open this up. Again, this is PID 796 for me. So 796, it's utilizing service host. I think this is where, like, when I'm on VirusTotal and looking into hash or something, sometimes if you look into the hash of service host or run DLL 32, you'll see a whole bunch of bad comments, but you can look and see that it's signed by Microsoft and stuff like that. While this is a normal process, it's a Microsoft process. You can see right here. In fact, we can verify this process and it should say verified Microsoft Windows Component Publisher. The thing is, malware can utilize these processes as well, but that's why it's not a good indicator without more context, right? Just service host alone, not necessarily a good indicator without additional context. So we're going to get that. Thankfully, though, we already know that this is tied to the DLL. We looked for it based off of our static analysis and also finding the DLL with the find and then searching for the DLL that we're doing analysis on, right? And if it located the one that is bad, the one that is utilized by the malware. So question 3 was, how can you find the process under which this malware is running? Well, what we did is once we started the service, which was question 2, how could you get this malware to run after installation? We started the iPrip service with the net start command, right? Net start iPrip. We were using our analysis tools and monitoring. Question 3, how can you find the process under which this is running? We search for the DLL by going to the find and then DLL our handle, and we searched. You can also note here that what we saw in one of the strings is this exact command line with service host -k net services. So we answered question 3 just to show y'all. In Process Explorer, find, handle, or DLL, or you can hit Control F. We typed in the exact name of the lab. You hit search, and we're finding this. Ignore PView because we were doing static analysis in PView. But we have the process ID. Now we have the process ID and the process name, which was service host under process ID 796. We have it. All right. We could even create a dump of this, which I'm not going to do now. Let's just stick with the questions here so I don't get off track. So after question 3, which filters could you set in Procmon to see more information? Is using the process ID, which I believe was 796. And I'm going to type that in and hit add and then apply. And yeah, so now we're seeing this exact service host process that our lab, the sample's running in. What I'm not sure of, though, is that there's still 11,000 events in here that we captured on this PID, so there's a lot going on. But I feel like we should be able to find the exact DLL running under this. PID. I might need to look in the book. What other filters could we use to tie this down, to tailor it down a little bit so we're not going through all of this? So let's see what we have. The description we could end up using. This is a fingerprint for fingerprinting the malware, but we can use this string, this sentence here, and hopefully be able to find anything to do with this. So let's try description, apply, and we didn't get anything, unfortunately. I could try the detail. We could also go to operation. We could try here. Possibly write file. I'm going to add that and go all the way back up. Maybe create a file as well. Enter. Cancel. Add. So now we should have create file and write file. And we're only including process 796. Process ID 796. So how many events do we have now? We have 824 create file events. Okay. So I'm going to expand this out so we can get a better view. There's so much going on. So this must have been a while ago because I've had PE view open for a while. I still don't understand why we wouldn't be able to look. Is it just the fact that this is a DLL file? It's a dynamic link library. I feel like I should be able to see this. Interesting. All right. Oh, there we go. lab0302.dll. So I'm going to include that. So we only have the two. And we have the command line with the -K. I'm gonna look at the book and see what the author did. So again, we were on question 4. He said, for question 4, in Procmon, you can filter on the PID you found using Process Explorer. That's exactly what I did. And we still had a ton of events there. The question was just, which filters could you set in Procmon? And then for question 5, what are the malware's host-based indicators? So I think we've filtered everything at least for this lab that we found everything that we're supposed to find for this lab, it looks like. I guess I can go through his detailed analysis a bit too. Yeah, before he goes into the network analysis, he finds where the lab 03 DLL is loaded. And we already found that with the PID and the service host process. Okay, so for the sake of keeping this video short and following the specific questions we're asking, that the book's asking is that we have answered at least 4 host-based questions and basic static and basic dynamic analysis that I'm able to perform at my current skill level. I think we have everything we needed for this. So we have a couple of good host-based indicators. For example, we have the following string. We know that it's going to start the iPrip service. We know that the display name is going to be Internet Network Awareness INA+. The description is going to be that INA+ collects and stores information, configuration, network configuration, and location information, and notifies applications when this information changes. We have these keys added. If we see the set iPrip service, and then we also see this INA+, Internet Network Awareness, or this description of depends INA+, followed by iPrip also having a value added, the service DLL. This can be changed, so the name of the file can be changed, but what we would see, even if we change this to malware.dll, we would see that right here, or wherever this was at. And in this instance, we had it on our desktop. Same stuff. Now I'm going to say we'll get a network-based indicator. All right, so real quick in Wireshark, what I was talking about here is I was able to see communication, right? So basically what I did is I looked through the packet capture and I saw a query to practicalmalwareanalysis.com. If we wanted to dive into it more, we can add filters. I'm not going to get into that at this moment. We'll probably do more advanced stuff with this later on. We can see multiple DNS requests here to practicalmalwareanalysis.com. We can follow it, which I already did. We're not going to get too much because we're just simulating network connections, but that's fine. We capture this packet and we know that it does contact that domain. Practicalmalwareanalysis.com is a good network-based indicator.